Federalist 61, Part 1. This is the last part of the Federalist Papers relating to the election of the members of the House of Representatives. If you remember, starting with Federalist 59 and 60, and now in this one, Hamilton defends the clause in the Constitution that says the national government will have the ultimate say, the final say in the manner and places and the time of choosing of the members of the Congress, because they did not want to give this power to the states, and because they'd seen over the course of previous years the states had violated any chance they could. They'd violated, they'd encroached upon the rights of the Congress of the United States at that time. So in this new Constitution, with the lessons they'd learned, that said, no, that's enough. We want a federal government, a national government that can write its own laws, execute its own laws, and be the judge of its own laws. We don't want to depend on the states for things that we shouldn't, because we found out the hard way. We found the hard way that states will not honor some of their agreements. And in this particular paper, he answers to the criticism the anti-federalists were making about why the Constitution does not say that elections must be held in counties where people reside. And Hamilton's answer is, look at all the states. Most of the states don't mention that the elections have to be in the counties where people reside. And then he brings up the example of state of New York, where these Federalist Papers are being first published, printed, where Hamilton is familiar with, where he lives. So he gives that example. And plus, at the very end of this paper, says there's also one thing, another positive thing. Instead of defending all these criticisms, he says, wait, we are setting up elections in a way that if a faction takes over part of the government, since we're going to have, especially in the House of Representatives, elections every 2 years on the national level at the same time, we can stop the factions from spreading like a disease. We can throw them out of office and elect new members, the bad members out of office and elect new members. So I'll just start reading it. Should be straightforward from here on out. The more candid opposers of the provisions respecting elections contained in the plan of the convention, when pressed in argument, will sometimes concede the propriety of that provision, with this qualification, however, that it ought to have been accompanied with a declaration that all elections should be had in the counties where the electors resided. This, say they, was a necessary precaution against an abuse of the power. A declaration of this nature would certainly have been harmless, so far as it would have had the effect of quieting apprehensions. It might not have been desirable, but it would, in fact, have afforded little or no additional security against the danger apprehended, and the want of it will never be considered by any impartial and judicious examiner as a serious, still less as an insuperable objection to the plan. The different views taken of the subject in the two preceding papers, Federalists 59 and 60, must be sufficient to satisfy all dispassionate and discerning men that if the public liberty should ever be the victim of ambition of the national rulers, the power under examination at least will be guiltless of that sacrifice. Here in this paper, he keeps on attacking the anti-federalists that criticize this Constitution, or at least this clause of the Constitution, as closed-minded, selfish, not judicious. The next paragraph, if those who are inclined to consult their jealousy only would exercise it in a careful inspection of the several state constitutions, the ones that are criticizing us, if they took the time and looked at all the state constitutions, they would find little less room for disquietude and alarm from the latitude which most of them allow in respect to elections than from the latitude which is proposed to be allowed to the national government in the same respect. A review of their situation in this particular would tend greatly to remove any ill impressions which may remain in regard to this matter. But as that view would lead into long and tedious details, I shall content myself with the single example of the state in which I write, the state of New York. The Constitution of New York makes no other provision for locality of elections than that the members of the Assembly shall be elected in the counties, those of the Senate in the great districts into which the state is or may be divided. These at present are 4 in number. In other words, there are 4 districts in the state of election, in the state of New York, and every district has a few counties in them. Are 4 in number and comprehend each from 2 to 6 counties. Each one of them include 2 to 6 counties. It may readily be perceived that it would not be more difficult to the legislature of New York to defeat the suffrages of the citizens of New York by confining elections to particular places than for the legislature of the United States to defeat the suffrages of the citizens of the Union by the like expedient. So you do not criticize the way, the places that the elections are held in New York. And the same thing is almost copied for the national Constitution. So why are you arguing or criticizing us? Suppose, for instance, the city of Albany was to be appointed the sole place of election for the county and district of which it is a part. Would not the inhabitants of that city speedily become the only electors of the members, both of the Senate and Assembly for that county and district? Can we imagine that the electors who reside in remote subdivisions of counties of Albany, Saratoga, Cambridge, etc., or in any part of the county of Montgomery would take the trouble to come to the city of Albany to give their votes for members of the Assembly or Senate sooner than they would repair to the city of New York to participate in the choice of the members of the Federal House of Representatives? The alarming indifference discoverable in the exercise of so invaluable a privilege under the existing laws, which afford every facility to it, furnishes a ready answer to this question. And abstracted from any experience on the subject, we can be at no loss to determine that when the place of election is at an inconvenient distance from the elector, the effect upon his conduct will be the same whether that distance be 20 miles or 20,000 miles. Hence, it must appear that objections to the particular modifications of the federal power of regulating elections will, in substance, apply with equal force to the modification of the like power in the Constitution of this state. And for this reason, it will be impossible to acquit the one and to condemn the other. A similar comparison would lead to the same conclusion in respect to the constitutions of most of the other states. So pretty much here, he repeats over and over, check out the other states, see how the elections are there. Which one of the states can you find that the election has to be held in the county where people reside? So he says, these opponents of ours, these anti-federalists, are just looking for excuses. They are not coming up with any real meaningful criticism of this Constitution.